Justin Bieber just dropped a bombshell that has everyone talking. The pop star is finally opening up about the dark side of his rise to fame, and what he's revealing about his time with Diddy and Scooter Braun is absolutely shocking. There are tapes involved, secrets being kept, and a marriage that might not be what it seems. If you want to know what really happened behind the scenes of Justin's career and the explosive truth about his personal life, you need to stick around because this gets wild. And hey, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Justin Bieber sat down for an interview that had people doing double takes. When asked about his past behavior at parties and what would be seen if people had him on tape, his response was telling. He admitted to making a lot of mistakes in the public eye and said he's not super proud of those things. But what really caught attention was how he talked about forgiveness, saying he forgives himself and knows God forgives him too. The way he spoke about these mysterious tapes has everyone wondering what exactly he's referring to. The timing of this confession is interesting because when Diddy was being investigated, authorities pulled a bunch of evidence from his homes. Among that evidence were reportedly numerous tapes, and now Justin seems to be confirming that he might be on some of them. He's talking about being recorded doing something he feels guilty about, which raises serious questions about what happened during his younger years in the industry. Justin had an extremely close relationship with Diddy during some of his most troubled times. Those years when he was constantly getting in trouble with the law and reportedly using a lot of drugs coincided with when he was hanging out and partying with Diddy regularly. The connection between his downward spiral and that relationship is hard to ignore. Now that he's older and has found peace through his faith, he seems ready to confront the trauma from that period of his life. Some people think Justin should just walk away from the industry completely and enjoy his life. After all, he's made enough money to retire comfortably, right? Well, it's not that simple. These celebrities have massive overhead costs. They employ teams of people, maintain multiple properties, own private jets, and live incredibly expensive lifestyles. Even though Justin has earned millions, that money gets spread thin across all these expenses. Plus, he sold his music catalog for a flat fee instead of keeping it for residual income, which would have provided long-term financial security. People need to understand that Justin isn't complaining about being a product. He's saying he's a human being who hasn't been treated like one for a very long time, especially when he was a child. His label and team were perfectly comfortable making him the most hated person in America even though he was just a kid who didn't deserve that level of vitriol. The music industry treats artists like products to be packaged and sold, and Justin experienced this firsthand from an incredibly young age. Look at what other artists go through. There's footage of Zara Larsson having to walk into a record label office and perform her song for a group of executives who then decide whether she's allowed to release her own music. Imagine being an artist who pours your heart into creating something, only to have a bunch of corporate suits tell you whether it's good enough. That's the reality for most musicians, and it shows just how little control they actually have over their own work. Some people pointed out that Justin has been using his son Jack Blues to promote his album, featuring him on cover art and in music videos. He's also been posting about him on Instagram to help with PR for his clothing line and public image. Sure, he's not showing Jack's face, but there's an argument to be made that he's still profiting off his child by creating mystery and intrigue around him. Maybe Justin doesn't even realize he's doing it, which would make sense considering he's only now starting to process what he went through with Sean Combs. On Christmas Eve, Justin posted something that really turned heads. He shared a screenshot with biblical verses that read about not speaking as a victim still bleeding, but as someone restored. The message talked about forgiveness, not to pretend injustice didn't happen, but so it doesn't keep living through you. He wrote about not wanting revenge but redemption, and not wanting to destroy the industry but to see it transformed. It's a beautiful sentiment, though realistically one person transforming an entire industry is a tall order. Even the Me Too movement, which shook Hollywood to its core, didn't completely transform the film industry. In another part of his Christmas post, Justin included what appears to be a personal note. He wrote about growing up in a system that rewarded his gift but didn't always protect his soul. He described moments where he felt used, rushed, and shaped into something he didn't fully choose. He acknowledged that this kind of pressure leaves wounds you don't see on stage. Justin admitted he's been through pain that shaped him before he even had words to name it, and he was in a system that took more than it protected. This is the clearest Justin has been about acknowledging what happened to him. Earlier reports from when Diddy was on trial suggested Justin wasn't a victim, but it seems likely he just didn't want that kind of attention at the time. Now he's saying what happened to him was real, and he's finding healing through his faith. He wrote that Jesus restored his identity and that he's not a product or what the industry demanded. He's a son, and because he's healed, he can forgive. You have to imagine Sean Combs would appreciate this post, though Justin is definitely owed an apology for what he was put through. The old clips of Justin with Diddy are even more disturbing when viewed through this lens. There's footage of Diddy talking about how Justin knows better than to discuss what they do together, saying everything isn't for everybody. There's another clip where Diddy jokes about what happens to white men at his parties, saying he puts them to sleep. Most chilling is when Diddy talks about having Justin for 48 hours without legal guardianship, saying they're going to go full buck crazy. These clips that once seemed like harmless celebrity interactions now feel deeply unsettling. But Diddy wasn't the only person who exploited Justin and took advantage of his youth and innocence. Scooter Braun played a major role in Justin's life and career, and their relationship has clearly soured. Scooter is so protective of his image that he's actually gone after content creators, sending cease and desist letters to YouTube to take down videos about him using false copyright claims. The fear surrounding Scooter Braun in the industry is real, and it shows just how much power he wields. Justin has spoken about people taking advantage of him because he was making money with them. He finally reached a point where he realized it wasn't worth being stepped on just because someone was helping him make money. His boundaries have helped him grow as a person, and he's learned that prioritizing people over money leads to better outcomes. He used to think that achieving certain milestones like selling out Madison Square Garden or reaching a certain dollar amount would make him happy, but he discovered that wasn't the case. There's no doubt Justin was talking about Scooter Braun in that statement, especially considering what happened next. Haley posted on her page celebrating Justin having the most streams on Spotify in his entire career, with 9.5 billion streams this past year. What made the post interesting was that she shouted out his success by writing it was all without his old team, using asterisks instead of naming them directly. Why can't she just say the old team's name? Why is everyone so terrified of Scooter Braun? The indirect shade felt weak, like she wanted to say something but was too scared to fully commit to it. Now here's where things get really messy. There's a blind item floating around from Janet Charlton's Hollywood website about Haley having a secret. According to this unverified gossip, Jack Blues might not actually be Justin's biological child. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, this is just a blind item, and there's no proof it's true. But it's worth discussing because we've never actually seen Jack's face, so no one can say whether he looks like Justin or not. We've only seen the back of his head multiple times. The blind item describes a rich and famous woman who married fairly young and started a family with her troubled but successful spouse. Their marriage has been filled with problems, mostly due to her husband's behavior. When things seemed irreparable, she had a one-night stand with a former lover because she needed the touch of a familiar face when she feared her marriage was ending. The marriage survived, and she discovered she was pregnant. She immediately realized she wasn't sure if her husband or her fling was the baby's father. Now her marriage is back on track, and she's praying her husband is the dad, even though her adorable child looks nothing like him. If this blind item is actually about Haley and Justin, and if it turned out to be true, the revelation would be devastating for Justin. He's already dealing with so much trauma from his past, and finding out his son isn't biologically his would be another massive blow. But again, this is unverified gossip from a blind item website, so take it with a massive grain of salt. Justin has a huge year ahead of him. He's headlining Coachella, and he's reportedly the highest paid act in the festival's history at $10 million. It's a groundbreaking achievement and something he built entirely on his own terms. Sources say that between headlining Coachella and the success of his recent music, this is clearly the start of an exciting new era for Justin where he's fully in control. That control is so important, especially when you think about artists like Zara Larsson who have to get approval from a team of executives just to release their own songs. Justin recently revealed he did stem cell therapy, which sounds like an incredibly expensive and exclusive treatment. He mentioned on stream that he can't drink for a month after the procedure. He admitted he's about a week in and it's been tough, especially during the holidays when he's going to parties and would normally have a glass of wine socially. He joked that he should have waited until after the new year to do the procedure. Some people commented that if going a week without alcohol is tough, that might indicate a problem, but a month without drinking doesn't seem unreasonable at all and is probably great for reducing inflammation. On December 20th, Hailey and Justin were spotted all smiles at lunch in West Hollywood. They looked happy together, enjoying each other's company. Hailey did an interview with GQ for their Men of the Year issue, which is interesting considering she's not a man. But they've been featuring successful women in that issue as well, celebrating their achievements as bosses and entrepreneurs. In the interview, Hailey said they're taking their marriage day by day. She talked about feeling very protective of their son and how that's never going to change. She acknowledged their life is very public, so they're just going to cross every bridge when they get there. In a video for GQ, she went undercover on the internet and responded to comments about her. When someone asked how she stays so strong and calm through everything, she gave an honest answer. She admitted things still get to her and still bother her, but having people around who experience the same thing makes it easier to cope with. She mentioned being married to someone who experiences it on a crazy level, so being able to vent about things that bother you and connect on that makes it more bearable. Someone asked how you buy a gift for someone who is everything, and Hailey said she loves giving gifts and being a good gift giver. She has a lot of people in her life who are hard to shop for because they could get anything they want for themselves. She said you have to get creative and sometimes just go really simple and buy them a really good pair of socks. That last suggestion felt a bit weak though, like surely she could think of something better than socks. Justin also talked about his plans for 2026. Despite being the highest-paid Coachella performer in history, he said he's not planning to go on a traditional tour for his recent albums. It reminds you of when Miley Cyrus announced she wouldn't be touring anymore because it's too hard on her body and mental health. Justin seems to have reached the same conclusion. He said he always starts out loving touring, but it always gets to a point where he's super burnout. At this point in his life, he wants to do spot dates where he picks a city and does a couple shows without committing to a whole 2-year run. He talked about how the industry always tells artists they have to tour a certain way, or else they won't be able to make money. They mention having to work around basketball games and arenas and all these scheduling conflicts. But Justin really thinks there's a way to do it differently. The reality is that touring is how most artists make their money because streaming, radio play, and residuals don't really add up. That's why Justin is selling $280 sweatshirts through his brand, and why artists like Rihanna and Selena Gomez have become some of the most successful not because of their music, but because of their brands. Justin Bieber's journey from child star to traumatized adult trying to heal is a story about what the entertainment industry does to young people. He's finally speaking his truth about the exploitation he faced, the relationships that damaged him, and his path toward healing. Whether he can actually transform the industry or just protect himself moving forward remains to be seen. But at least he's taking control of his narrative and setting boundaries that should have been there all along. His story serves as a warning about the cost of fame and the importance of protecting young artists from the predatory systems that view them as products rather than human beings. If you made it this far, make sure you're subscribed because there's always more to uncover about what really happens behind the scenes in Hollywood.